We're on page 63.
Fish habitat, that's where we are.
Significant wildlife habitat.
We're on page 63. Now I had to go back to Zoom.
Fish habitat, that's where we are.
Significant wildlife habitat.
We're on page 63. Now I had to go back to Zoom.
Wildlife habitat.
We have it open.
There. On page 63. Now I have to go back to Zoom.
Sorry, I touched a button.
I think we're live. We might be hearing ourselves so good we said it twice, but we will open the meeting. So I need a mover and a seconder. Speak by member Poisey, seconded by member Linsky. That the planning advisory meeting be opened at 6. All in favor? Carried. Adopting the minutes, need a mover and a seconder, moved by member Paquette. Seconded by member Langlois. Hey, there we go. That the minutes of the planning advisory committee meeting held December 4th, 2023 be adopted as circulated. Questions or comments? All in favor? It's carried. Okay, so we are at the bottom of page 62, significant wildlife habitat. Do you want me to start reading, or Cam, do you want to start? It's up to you. You go ahead. Okay. Shouldn't ask. So certain wildlife habitat has been identified by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry as having special significance and is shown on Schedule B. These habitats identified by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry include but are not limited to fish habitat areas, deer wintering yards, moose, aquatic feeding areas, and bird nesting sites. Council recognized that all of the undeveloped land in the township is suitable habitat for a variety of wildlife species, and that not all wildlife habitats are known nor currently mapped. The township supports the protection of wildlife habitat to the greatest extent possible, and as such follows policies. Following policies apply. Where development of a site alteration is proposed outside the hamlet settlement area, a site-specific assessment of potential significant wildlife habitat may be required prior to planning approval. Such assessments are to be carried out in accordance with the Significant Wildlife Habitat Technical Guide and the applicable provincial guidelines. Alterations not permitted in significant wildlife habitat. 3, where development of this site alterations proposed within 120 meters of the boundary of the identified habitat, the proponent shall provide the township with an environmental impact statement. And 4, where the presence of a habitat has been identified, protective measures to limit impacts on the natural resources and their quality will be required. Questions or comments on that? 5.1.3 habitat of endangered and threatened species. I'm happy to read through each, but in the light of trying to be a bit more expedient. Do we want to just flag if we have things to discuss? So. On that. Fish habitat 1.4. The fish habitat is identified on Schedule B of the plan. Township considers all water bodies, water courses, and intermittently or seasonally flooded areas as fish habitat. Number 2, 3, and 4, anything on those points for fish habitat? Seeing none. 5.1.5 nesting sites. The nesting sites of great blue herons and other bird species are shown on Schedule B. And are considered significant wildlife habitats.
I was just surprised they didn't make mention of the DFO,
Help me out, DFO.
Department of Fisheries. They would dictate that,
Yeah, they probably for the mapping in the,
yeah, and the Conservation Authority requires a permit for working near water.
it did talk to that, I can speak to that.
Okay, on page 66. No development or site alteration. Policy of the Ministry of Natural Resources regarding activities permitted within 300 meters of nesting site during the non-nesting season, which is August 16th to March 31st, are supported. And D, development site alteration. Looking around the room, seeing none. 5.1.6 wetlands. So I think that I'll read the new piece, which is the Rice Bay wetland has been identified as provincially significant wetland within the township. In addition to other and unevaluated wetlands, it is the intent of the township to protect the ecological function of these wetlands in the township. Following policy shall apply to the areas illustrated as other wetlands, unevaluated wetlands, and provincially significant wetlands on Schedule B to this plan. And it goes through those situations. Anything? Okay. 5.1.7 Lake Oswego, Talon Lake, and Cabascon Bay general development policies. The official plan recognizes that Lake Oswego, Talon Lake, and Cabascon Bay are a major resource of the township. The township of Bonnfield, supporting extensive recreational and tourism opportunities, as well as a reasonable amount of seasonal and permanent residents. This plan further recognizes that all lands located within the Lake Oswego, Talon Lake, and Cabascon Bay watersheds are connected by surface and groundwater drainage, and that the uses of these wetlands directly or indirectly influence Lake Oswego, Talon Lake, and Cabascon Bay. Planning policies for Lake Oswego are based on recommendations outlined in the Lake Oswego Watershed Management Study of 1993, including recommendations to be implemented as a result of potential impacts which could occur in the scale of the 66-foot original lakeshore road allowance to abutting property owners and the increased impact this may have on Lake Oswego. Planning policies for these portions of Talon Lake within the jurisdiction of the township of Bonnfield and the Cabascon Bay are based on potential impacts which could occur as a result of the sale of the 66-foot original lakeshore road allowance to abutting property owners and the increased impact this may have to the Talon Lake and Cabascon Bay.
Question,
Yeah,
where is that 66-foot original lakeshore road allowance? Where is that?
on every shore.
Oh,
Every
they're
lake,
just
every
saying
water
in
body.
66, okay, based on that.
Yeah, so every property along that has 66-foot road allowance. Some property owners have purchased it, some have not, depends on the allowable, well, if interested and if it's allowed.
Otherwise, it's owned by the municipality. For these exact reasons, that's in to protect the lake. There's a 60 on every lake to be protected.
Number 3, planning policy, these portions of town lake within the jurisdiction of the township of Bonfield and Catascon Bay are based on potential impacts which could occur as a result of the sale of 66-foot. Did I read this one?
Yeah.
Sorry. Number 4, it is the intent of the official plan to ensure that the special care is taken through lake and watershed development controls to maintain and improve the existing level of water, aesthetic and fishery quality of Lake Nosbonson Town Lake in Catascon Bay, Lake Nosbonson Main Basin, and support limited new development.
Main basin, that's towards Estuary. The big,
Yeah. According to the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, Town Lake, Turtle Lake, and Catascon Bay are considered to be at capacity. Where it is being determined through sampling of the lakeshore capacity modeling that the lakes are deemed to be at capacity. Lot creation and land use changes which would result in more intensive use will not be permitted except under one of the following circumstances. Sewage disposal tile beds, on each new lot are set back at least 300 meters from the shoreline of the lake, which such that drainage from the tile bed would flow at least 300 meters to the lake. The sewage disposal tile beds on each new lot are located such that they would drain into the drainage basin of another water body, which is not at development capacity. Or C, to separate existing habitable dwellings, which were included in the original lake development capacity calculation onto individual lots, each capable of supporting a class 4 sewage disposal system, provided that the land use does not change and no net increase in phosphorus loading occurs. So we have X number of lots currently on Town Lake that's saying no more subdivision of those lots. That's saying that if it's deemed residential, so if it's seasonal, that nobody can put a residential.
Not a permit. Not a year round.
Pending where it is.
Yeah. Well, if. This is on a private road along the lake. Yeah.
So how does that impact, let's say, we say no more trailers on lots, people then want to build a home. You're saying that this is saying that it cannot happen.
the
Unless,
lot is there already.
unless A or B is there, so, and this is what they were talking about in other municipalities recently, where they said that if the tile bed is 300 meters away from the lake. Then when it starts to drain, it's already gone through the tile bed, and then it has 300 more meters to go, then it's usually much cleaner by the time it gets to the lake. So if the lot exists, you can already. You
And it
can
could
build.
be rezoned as long as.
Mhm.
My question is
I would assume that, right?
like in 5, when it says. Where it shouldn't be more intensive or extensive property being done. Like, how does that affect Airbnbs being in the back of on town lake, short-term rentals? Would that not be considered an intensive use?
Well, we'd have to go back to the study that was done in 1993 to see what that property was gauged as use,
Right.
so if it was as a seasonal, then, and it's gonna be used more nights.
Yeah,
than you would in the
residential.
season. Yeah,
Right.
so we'd have to go back to that study.
I see where you're going with that though, because. A seasonal use of a short-term rental versus seasonal use of a family use, two very different streams on the lake.
Maybe. Maybe.
We would have
You
to
could have
test
a
that in
family
live.
of 5 kids and
Yeah,
may have the potential.
Assuming that most seasonal residences will eventually be permanent ones.
they're not
That's
supposed
the
to.
way it is going, but not supposed to, no.
Yeah.
It's been going that way.
It would be a bylaw enforcement issue. Mhm.
When I looked at that
But I think the
provincial,
challenge is gonna be, so yeah, we can go back and see what it said existing, but I. Probably willing to bet that it did have, made no mention of short-term rentals as being a use of that property in the previous. Is that actually then predetermining our use of short-term rentals on lakefront properties?
On some, yeah.
So we should have a,
I've looked at many bylaws and official plans just because I'm interested in it. And I could find no
So if there
municipality
are
that no
existing
municipality.
lots in the subdivision, they can still build in there.
You would think they'd be calculated in the capacity.
Yes.
Anything else on that before I move on
Hi.
to 6?
Hi,
The following additional site
Can you
specific
hear
criteria
me?
can be applied where new development is proposed at capacity lakes or where certain municipal
excuse me.
planning tools and agreements are in place, such as a community planning permit system under the Planning Act and or a site plan control under the Planning Act and site alteration and tree cutting bylaws under the municipal act.
Excuse me. Have you
All of
muted
this is
me?
new, right? This is, yeah.
there was an older section that they took everything out, so it's not all brand new. There was, they had it in a different section, they took it from that section and moved it to this section.
Okay.
I don't know if you want me to go through the font, but it is,
No, fine. I mean, I'm happy to read all of this because it's all new, or you can just see if anybody has any questions or comments, but
All new to me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But like I go down to 8C is where the first big, and I just pumped out on a regular basis, which is at the end of that 8C. Do we have a definition of regular basis?
Maybe every 3 years. We specify. That's what I do with my kids, every 3 years.
And if it's a short-term rental and or a family of 9, chances are it's
At least every 3 years.
or,
Yeah. It'd be nice to have.
like a minimum requirement.
So you'd have to bring proof of the septic's pumped out to the municipality then, yeah.
Get a way to
In the bylaw.
ask the companies to share that information.
They can probably just bring a receipt from the company.
other municipalities do that where you just have the receipt and it goes into your file, and check off.
Yeah,
So
when
every
they're,
time that they get pumped, they have to show you a receipt?
I mean, the whole
Excuse
goal
me?
is to protect the lake, right?
Yeah.
Environmental protection, so it's all about protecting the lake.
Can you hear
and
me?
Water that they usually take from the lake, so you wanna make sure that the septics are properly managed and maintained. To protect the lake.
and in the real estate
No, you're not
transactions,
hearing me.
it's always required that they bring in a receipt that the pump or the septic had been pumped at the time of the purchase of the property. They bring those receipts in, their receipt in to show that they're in compliance with the pumping the septic out. Which maybe they had it pumped out a year before, and when they sell it, they still have to have it pumped out on the closing of the purchase.
Excuse me, can you hear me?
We put in there a certain amount of years. between
I think they
pumping, or-
muted.
Yeah, I have a note to ask jail Richards. Or we can put it into the zoning bylaw. Depending on which space it is at this point. I had one on 8B. So on this one, it's saying existing parcels of records and new lots and known setback for on-site subsurface sewage disposal beds from the shoreline, and maybe, help me, I don't know if it's the same. A difference between subsurface sewage disposal beds, and the other one is a tile bed. But one is 5.1.75 is 300 meters and this one's 30.
Right, there's been a few discrepancies like that.
Yeah,
Hello?
so I'm like,
I
I
Hello?
don't know,
mean,
keep it
300.
at 300. It's on the lake, I think it's meant to be 300.
On those small lots, impossible. But they're already existing.
Mhm.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be able to change classification or change it from recreational to residential without. If the lots too small.
Yeah, yeah, you do, so need it.
what if it is 30 because it's a different system? It's a tile bed versus soil, right?
Yeah, and I don't know the
Yeah.
difference. So I have my question here.
Hello?
Because there's no way that a lot of these houses have their beds 300 meters away from shoreline.
No, so it'd be for anything new. So if it's a vacant lot right now and they're gonna put a house on, then they have to meet this condition. Or then they would apply for a minor variance if they can't meet the conditions, but. Then with the minor variance, at least they go through the planning process. So they
Yeah.
look at it and see exactly how far back it can be. Or what we can do to protect the lake.
Okay. Going on 9, 10 through 16.
Put a bunch of stuff in there, but it was really hard for me. So a landscape corridor, not more than 5 meters, and I started to kind of do the math on a lot to see, can the requirements actually be met on a lot? And it's very tight. Very tight. I started to do a drawing, it's like 305 meters, and so. I'm sure they would have done this as well. That's just a red flag that I'm gonna have them go through this. And then 11 has not greater than 10 square meters, but the Ontario Building Code changed to be, if it's only for storage, it's allowed to be 10 by 16. So I'm not sure that you might want to do that. It's something different because these ones speak about other uses on the structures for the 108 square feet, which you would need a permit for any of these structures for according to the use. But if you're just using a 10 by 16 for storage, then you don't need a permit.
10 meter by 16 meter,
But
because it's 10 square meters.
Yeah, 10 square meters is 108 square feet.
Actually, on that. Oh, wait.
I Googled it, so I have my note. Google convert.
Yeah, so it's gonna go from 108 to 160, or is it should, or something like that?
Yeah, so they should.
Yeah.
They should.
Okay.
They want them to review that.
5.2, anything else before we move on?
Well, 16, I think, speaks to some of the other questions when I was saying about, I'm not sure how it fits and, you know, lots of the new lots can't meet the 300 meter setback. And then 16 does allow us to do site plan control. So if somebody went through, if we kept the rules the way the rules are, then they went through a minor variance, then we can introduce site plan control, which we can then make sure that the septics are appropriately managed through site plan control to protect the lake. Just a heads up.
Right. But at the end of the day, I mean, we are discussing the Lake Management, Town Lake and Kabascong Bay general development policies, which is Kabascong Bay at capacity?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. there's no
Only
capacity.
the lake
There
here,
is.
that's not.
It's also gonna move at that point.
There
There's
are
still a few farms on the lake here, I guess, that can be divided
I don't think we can create new lots.
on the lake here,
Yeah.
I think like near Sunnyside, on Sunnyside.
because it's
there are
not
some
at
very
capacity
big
on the lake here, and the other. water
Oh, on the
agencies-
not, yeah, yes.
So that's right.
They-
There
yeah.
must be a few farms again, that's still.
Okay.
Hello?
Page 69, right? Yeah.
Hello?
Number 10, anything? Yeah, the start was at number 11, I'm not sure why. Landscape corridor, not more than 5 meters in width through the natural vegetative buffer of lake. You know, comes down there, those portions of town left with the justification that the township of Montville shall be permitted to accommodate any boathouses, docks, wharfs, aircraft hangars and structures occupying an area not greater than 10 square meters. I should have wrote something better than a star. My question was.
The maximum they're allowed to build.
I guess, that's the thing.
my question on that was, is the 5 meters, because it just says, a landscape corridor of not more than 5 meters. I mean, ours, we want the lane to stay as natural as possible. Mine was around the footings or including the footings, so. But maybe I just answered my own question. We're good.
Basically, they're trying to limit the amount of clearing they're gonna do. If you put out a boathouse, you
Right.
can't go more than 5 meters anyway to clearing.
That's to protect the riparian vegetation.
Oh, yes. Like, for instance, the Conservation Authority usually says to us that we're not allowed to remove trees by roots. You're allowed to cut the tree, but you can't remove the root from the edge of the water because it's erosion control methods and natural filtration into the lake, etc.
Sure. Okay, number 12 through 16. Do we have any notes you wanna discuss? 5.2 natural hazards constraint area. 1 through,
You have a question?
sorry, yeah, there's.
I've been trying to
Oh.
say something, but
Can't hear
I
you.
think you're on mute. Oh, we might be us actually.
Yeah.
Is the volume right down?
can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I've been muted, I've
two.
been muted for a long time, and I've been trying to,
Yeah.
Wait.
There's.
I've been trying to say something, but
I think you're on mute. Oh, we might be us actually.
Yeah.
Is the volume right down? This technology is gonna be the death of us.
can you hear me now?
Yep. Yeah.
Because I've been muted for a long time, and I've been trying to,
Yeah.
Wait.
There's computer.
I've
I'm
been
over on
trying
the
to
I don't know.
say something, but
You're on mute.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you, can you?
We can hear you.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been muted for a long time. I'm getting this echo.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you now, but you couldn't hear me or see my hand from a while ago. But anyways, I just wanted to go back to existing lots.
We're
on the
trying to
lake.
get you sound.
Hold up, Gina. Microphone.
Do wet TV or speaker.
Which one?
Yeah, the middle one. Select it there. That'll come to the TV now.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Did I turn everything down?
You have your TV. Do wet TV or speaker.
Oh, this is terrible.
That's
I-
probably
Yeah,
the
the
middle
middle
one.
one. Select it there. That'll come to the TV now.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Turn everything down.
Can we by any chance just call Gina and have like
Do wet TV or speaker.
Oh, this is terrible.
I'm having no trouble hearing you.
we're hearing you about
Can you
6
hear
times.
us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can't figure out what's.
It's like, it's almost like 2 Zooms are open, maybe.
Gina and
It's almost like we're listening to our own meeting.
that's
I'm having no
Live to the
trouble
cloud, and then
hearing
you
you.
went live to YouTube.
we're hearing you about 6 times.
I went record on the call.
Yeah.
I can't figure out what's.
It's like, it's almost like 2 Zooms are open, maybe.
If I get edit this, what
It's
would
almost
happen?
like we're listening. And now you're down to 1 meeting.
I'm having no
Live to the
trouble
cloud, and
hearing
then you went live to YouTube.
We're hearing you about 6 times.
That makes you feel better happens to me every day, the quick meeting.
Well,
I just cut off everything and then John will be like, oh, don't worry about it. It's
I
fine."
can't edit this.
Oh.
So I assume at some point we're gonna figure this out. So that we're not doing.
I haven't seen this before. What happens to me every time?
I was just kind of asking about existing lots on the water. Now I can't hear you guys. I was just kind of asking about existing lots on the water.
Oh, maybe not.
Can you hear us?
I can, yes,
And we're not hearing it 10
now I
times.
can't hear you guys.
You can't?
Oh, no.
I
that's-
can, that's delayed.
Gina, we're getting a huge delay, so we're hearing it more than once.
On the water.
So perhaps if Nikki has your phone number, we're gonna call you,
I can, yes,
and we're just gonna put you on speakerphone.
And we're not
okay,
hearing.
now I can't hear you guys.
This is- More than once.
On the water.
So perhaps if Nikki has your phone number, we're gonna call.
I can, yes.
Turn it on.
Okay. Now I can't hear you guys.
This is-
It happens to me too.
More than once. So perhaps if Nikki has your phone number, we're gonna call.
I can, yes.
Said that.
Okay.
You ever see Truman Show?
Well, okay.
It's right here, maybe. Here. You hear us now, Gina?
Yes,
Okay, you got it.
It's still live, linking too. We gotcha.
you got it figured out?
We think
I think so,
so.
yeah.
Ooh, that was even better.
Oh, you were just trying to shut me down.
We're making the meeting go to New Year's.
It was only that easy, eh?
Yeah.
No, remember what you want?
Yeah. I was just asking about existing lots that are already existing. An existing building lot. It's not a new lot, it's already existing. So would it still follow that we would need a minor variance, or the person could still it would still go under the old official plan? An existing lot, because I always understood from Sabrina when we talked about it before, like in our planning meetings, and when we were doing the original meeting, that this would not affect existing lots.
Yeah, so it doesn't affect the lot, like you can't have new lots necessarily, but the rules apply to the existing lots, but they would go through a minor variance. So
And why would we need them to do that if they were already approved? What law or regulation are we going under, or is it just the township?
yeah, it's just the township. So go through the official
Why
plan,
would we
and
want
go-
to, why would we want to do that if we're trying in one place, people are stating that they want them developed, and then in another area, we're hindering lots that we already approved as a building lot? Why would we want to do that?
It's a great question, and so if we went back to the original official plan in 1993. The rules have changed since then as well. So any new building that would be put up on an existing lot, so say it's vacant and someone's putting a new building up. The building envelope has changed from when the lot was created. if they can still meet the building envelope, they're good to go and they don't need anything, but if they can't, then there's mechanisms in the planning act. Like the minor variance or rezoning that allow them to then. Still be able to develop the land, but under the new rules.
But then that's an expense for them and deterring them, like an example of what would be such a big change in the envelope, in the building envelope, that we would make them go through that when, you know, the Ontario government wants us to promote housing, and why would we want to make a block?
But we still want to promote, if I can,
Yeah.
we still want to promote housing and development, but we want to be more environmentally aware on these lots. So this is all about environmental protection. So yes, we still want development, but we want to make sure that we're not going to hurt the lake as they develop. So that's where you can say, here are the new rules based on the new information that the world knows about how development works. So we're not discouraging development. We're just saying this is how it has to be in place now. Yes, we're encouraging the housing as the province wants us to do, but then the province also gives us policies on environmentally protection for the lakes.
Yes, but everybody needs approval through for their septic and everything else. So if we're already bringing that with our approval for a building permit, why are we getting involved? Because there's limited already lots available in that scenario.
So what would your alternative be? To allow the housing, but to still make sure we're supporting the lake?
Well, we're going to make sure we're supporting the lake, or they won't get a septic permit. And they need a septic permit to even come. So if they're not concerned, why would the township, because it's not easy to get a septic, they're gonna also have their new rules in place. So if we come, or anybody comes to you with the septic and it's been approved, why are we making another block? Because if they're fine with it, you would think, if that ministry's fine with it, why would the township, what's the purpose? Because one of the things we're going to, you know, say in a minor variance, or someone's going to say is, well, my septic was approved. So like, I just don't get why we're making that for already existing lots on a plan, a subdivision or otherwise, or a previous severance that was a building lot.
So I do have a note to have the North Bay Madawaska Conservation Authority really look at this section. That's my sticky here. And to have them review this, because they will tell us if there's ways that we can reduce anything. They haven't commented, obviously this isn't a public document yet, so they have not reviewed it. But I do have a note to ask them to review all of this, so they will still follow provincial policy first to make sure that any septic that comes to their, an application that comes to their table, they're gonna make sure it meets the province, but they're also gonna make sure that it meets the municipal policies.
I know, yeah, but if we're
So
putting extra, then we're making it more difficult.
Yeah, so what
We're
we've done is
gonna
that I
be,
think,
yeah, we're gonna be the stumbling block. And we're already facing a lot of stuff. Like I believe in protecting the lake, absolutely. But if they're going to approve it, I just don't understand why we're making us unnecessary additional protection, because the lots are minimal anyways, as we already know.
so what do you want to change?
Well, I'm just wanting to know that previous wording. I'd have to go back to it. So I'm just asking us all to think about that. You know, on existing lots. I'm not talking about new creation. I'm talking about, you know, what somebody had yesterday and may not have tomorrow.
You're talking more of a.
Right,
site
like
plan?
for instance, when they used to build a house, you were able to throw the latrine right out the window, right? Back in the day, so then as time came, changes have
Oh, I'm,
changed.
I'm
the-
well aware of that, and I'm well aware of other authorities making, already making new adjustments and everything, just like for septics and everything. I'm just wondering why we as a township are making things that are already kind of, are gonna have the checks and balances before we even come to you with a building permit.
So we're not, I went back and the original is 4.3.1. And the original is that the sewage disposal tile beds on each new lot are set back at least 300 meters.
New lot, not, it
Yeah.
doesn't say existing.
I don't think that it has changed much. Yeah, so where it's been determined through sampling or lakeshore capacity modeling that the lakes are deemed to be at capacity, lot creation and land use changes which would result in a more intensive use will not be permitted except under the following circumstances. So it's saying so
Lot
far.
creation again, it's saying lot creation.
I think it's the same wording.
Yes.
And if it's worked for the last 10 years, it should still, yeah, if you go back to that other section, I think it's the same wording. They just took it from that one section and moved it to the new section.
Well, I know we talked with this Sabrina in length, and so if we could just review that, because like I said, I've already repeated myself on septic approval, and then we're going back to, well, what can that person with the trailer build then? So then he can't have his trailer and he can't have a cottage, even though it was an existing lot, and has to do a minor variance. Like, ooh, that's a lot.
So would he be able
Just
to,
food for thought.
if it's zoned recreational? Like if it's going for rezoning, right? So if you're gonna try and do residential, then obviously it needs to comply. If it's a residential and there's currently no building permit on there, if it's zoned residential, so you're gonna apply for a building permit. So we should absolutely have the ability to dictate what's gonna be built or not built on that lot based on the capacity of the lake and the needs, right? So just because it's an existing lot without a building permit doesn't give it carte blanche.
No.
And yeah, and it looks like it's
I disagree.
very similar.
I think we had this conversation a while ago, and it's, if these lots are already zoned, whatever, let's stick with residential, because the whole recreational thing is gonna add another layer to it, but a residential lot that's existing already, and it meets the septic requirements and whatnot, that when they did the calculations for that capacity, they've already included for that lot to have
Yeah, I agree.
residents on it, right?
I agree.
So then,
If it's meeting all the capacity limits and all the setbacks, all of the, then great. I think, unless I'm misunderstanding Gina. You're looking for it to not restrict at all?
No, I'm looking then that maybe it's legal non-conforming if they don't have a concern with you putting a septic on it, then why are we putting bigger stipulations to that existing lot?
Or the one that. If you okay or not, We're the ones, not the conservation authority.
Yeah.
No, I think I think there's a couple things happening here. I feel as though, and you touched on it, but I don't think it was received. The reason why all of this is highlighted, I think, is because it was moved from section 4 to here.
Right.
But most of these points stayed the same from the previous one. So because it's already been deemed at capacity, the township had said, because we're at capacity, some of these prerequisites have to happen, like the 300 meters and it's not an additional hurdle. It's just saying that this is already a special case because we have to now be very, very attentive to what's being built, the size of it, and the capacity of the septics. So they've documented it and said these are special zones. And so special attention applies to it. So now, yes, you're gonna go to the North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority, get your septic beds, but then they all have to conform with the fact that this is a special zone. In actuality, when you look at the zoning, it actually says special zone, right? So that's why these are special, it's not necessarily more hurdles, it's just more attention needs to be given because we're basically at near the capacity of it, right? I'm in a situation that's actually exactly what we just talked about because I built in a special zone this year. So I knew I had to go through all this and it wasn't a bigger headache. It was just the fact that the North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority has a zone. And my house, even though that I'm on the lake, is yes, 100 yards or whatever it is more than away from the water line because there's a low wetland area. Okay, so it didn't restrict me from building, but it dictated how close or how far I can install my septic and house.
Yeah.
So I feel
but then-
that's where the confusion is that I think that I was listening to your point. You're saying that why should we add an additional layer of requirements and try to dissuade future developments on lots that had been already zoned for a residential use that don't have a house, but I feel like it's just special attention being given to the type of area that it's in.
And I also understand that, but they were talking like 300 meters in one area. What area was that you were talking about 300 meters?
Yeah, and that was wording in the former official plan as well.
Yeah.
So people have met that.
And it's actually indicated in a tone or whatever. It's along certain special zones, you'll see a hatch that says no construction in these zones because there's an elevation requirement for example, Kaibaskong Bay, anything below a certain elevation marker, you can't construct on because obviously the floodplain. So that's why there's all these, it's not extra bureaucratic layers, it's extra environmental layers.
Yeah.
In order to be
I was
legal
just
non-conforming, it has to pre-exist. So what you're saying is it doesn't pre-exist, right?
Only the lot.
The zoning is there, but it's a vacant piece of property. So in order for it to be legal non-conforming, there has to be something that's there
right.
legally at some point, right?
Like a building structure.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Oh, for legal non-conforming, yeah.
For the building.
Yeah, like if the building was pre-existing and then the rules changed, well, they would be legal non-conforming. We can't force them.
Yeah.
Until they need a new septic.
And then for your existing lot,
But there's
then
rules
Pam,
that there's rules that allow that.
Sorry,
then
Gina?
for your existing lot, then when you got your building permit, you didn't have to go through a minor variance or anything like
No,
that.
I just made sure that I met the requirements set out by I just met all the requirements.
By the, well, all I was,
By everyone, by the North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority and the municipality.
but what you're saying is that there's no new requirements of the municipality in this document.
I don't think so. I'd have to overlay it word for word, but I remember when I first read this, when it was first printed out for us, I checked back to the original and it looked to me like it was a cut and paste, like from section 4 to here. And that's why it's all highlighted. other than the fact that they do have like, for example, some of the titles scratched out, but. We can definitely circle this and go word for word at, before the January thing.
Yeah, I just wanted to ensure there wasn't anything over and above.
Yeah, that's right. I actually went through it too because it applies to my lot, right? But that was a month ago, so I think it stays the same.
Okay,
Okay, so
Okay.
I didn't know it, so I can remember.
and the other one was like residential versus seasonal. Just when you get a chance, I was looking in that provincial policy statement. And like I can, once, like anybody else, I can miss things. But I couldn't find the clause pertaining to that a residential had to be on a municipal road. I couldn't find, so if you can just pass the clause, because I couldn't find it in that document. But like I said, when you're looking for something, it's easy to not see it.
Yeah, I can't remember the sections right off the top of my head. I can't remember exactly where it is. I want to say it's actually in the municipal act. But I have to find it, so I'll find it.
Yeah, because I kind of looked in that document, and I know in a lot of the official plans that I've looked at in other areas, they acknowledge that through the years, a lot of the seasonal have become residential and they carry on as residential. So there's a lot of areas that they acknowledge that are on lanes and everything else, and it's been accepted within the municipality.
And this document provides for that as well. It's an enforcement issue if we just allow it to continue to happen, right? Where if it keeps getting worse and worse, that more and more seasonal lots are being used as full-time residential lots without the municipality either noticing and or asking those people to come into compliance, then that there is something in this document that acknowledges going backwards, pre-existing, whatever it is, the date of the document or something like that, right?
Yeah, and a lot of official plans, when it gets to, they acknowledge that there are seasonal homes that have turned into permanent residential homes. But they still make the provision saying that there's no road maintenance, there's no bus service.
Oh, of course.
There's
Yes.
no garbage collection. So they identify that they've had it, but then they make sure to specify that. Sure, it happens, but these are services that we do not provide because it wasn't intended to be a full year.
Yes.
Year-round.
Yeah.
Well,
And I think that's later on, I've seen that within this
Yeah.
document. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else
Thank
for
you.
this? Problem sand and gravel resource areas, am I on 5.3? Is that where we're next? Identified in Schedule B. Does anybody have any points to make on sand and gravel resource areas?
actually.
Okay, moving on to wildland fire.
These are new policies, but I have seen them in several official plans. I think it's.
Okay.
And very similar policies.
Moving on wildland fire. Cultural heritage resources. With some general updating. On 5.5.1 cultural heritage policies. Notes. Looking around. Everybody else does. 5.5.2. else? Okay, number 6, transportation. To ensure that the transportation within the township boundaries functions efficiently and safely in the movement of people and goods. 4 classifications, provincial highways. Then township roads.
Oh, actually, I had something
Oh.
for provincial.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
6.12. New non-residential entrances shall generally be limited to public roads leading to approved subdivisions and to original township road allowances. All entrances require the approval of the MTO, which is not true.
If they're on the highway,
Well, it doesn't really say that, it says public roads,
But it's under six.
or provincial highways.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Interrupted for nothing.
it's when you read it out loud that you go, oh, I remember my question. Yeah, I've already done it tonight.
That's good. I had a star and I couldn't figure out what to say. Township roads are under jurisdiction of the township. Township roads provide year-round access to development in the township. They're there, the number of streets and driveway intersections in the township roads should be minimized. What does that mean?
Say again?
The number of streets and driveways intersecting with township roads should be minimized.
Yeah.
Or, what does that mean?
Oh, it's.
Your frontage, I
It's
guess.
the ribbon development again.
Basically, I have a situation where there's 3 of us. Separate addresses that share the same driveway, and then it splits within our properties. So then the township only has one access to our, you know what I mean?
I have the same thing.
Yeah. So I think that's what it's saying, because it number of streets and driveways intersecting with township roads.
Sure, so we'll promote that as wherever possible, but really,
It's actually saying to promotion.
what's that?
It's saying to
Well-
promote it, yeah.
Not allowed, as long as you have right of ways, deeded right of ways, it's okay. But, and I think it goes back to all those other statements about urban development. I mean, the more on and off the road, the more accidents that can happen, so.
But even for plow maintenance and all that, you know.
Yeah,
Okay.
but 4 says make purchase assured.
Yeah.
When it's possible.
With number 5, within the hamlet settlement areas, bond of another than the township shall strive to ensure that a sidewalk is provided on at least one side of the street. Well, how many sidewalks do we have total in this municipality? 2. So.
Some have vehicles parked on.
Right.
Going on.
So.
Try.
And one, if you call it a sidewalk restriction,
Well, actually, and there's none in Rutherglen at all.
he's improving that sidewalk that goes to this.
So define strive and define when we are non-compliant with our own official plan, when we have 2 total.
But with future development, like we were saying with subdivisions, we should encourage streetscaping.
Oh, absolutely.
So there should be sidewalks placed in subdivisions.
Sure.
Yes,
That's in subdivision section, this is talking straight in the hamlet.
well,
I'm just wondering if it's like of any
Only
use
about 5
putting it in there still.
I think it should be. Cause at some point, we're gonna get so much money, the township's gonna wanna do all these cobbled sidewalks, eh?
no.
Yeah, it's gonna
Oh,
go
We're
beautiful.
gonna have,
Well,
They're
not
not
bubble.
covered. And then tear them all up.
The sidewalks in town are used by
They're
the
all gonna be heated.
snowmobiles.
That's what we're gonna have.
If you like, if there's a grant though that allows us to do beautification, if this is in our policy, it does say that
Yeah.
we're complying with the official plan, so it does help.
Perfect.
It'd be nice, don't have to swerve around
Yeah,
the young mothers with the baby carts. all the
I'm
time.
assuming we can use gas tax for sidewalks.
yeah.
When we catch up on roads.
When we get the other efficiencies done,
No,
that's the
do it.
long-term financial plan that.
Do
we're
it at the
working
same
on.
time you're doing the road,
I
that's
did
the
apply
plan.
for.
Yeah. Problem is- 3 kilometers turns into 2 kilometers as soon as you put sidewalks in.
Yeah,
To promote active living.
Kilometer a year, we'd be there.
yeah.
How many kilometers of roads in?
121. You only count one.
121 years.
I don't mean out. You make wide roads, you're okay.
All right, moving on. So seasonal roads. Private roads. Snowmobile trails. Anybody has anything? Recreational trails.
I think that we call them unmaintained and we call them seasonal.
Seasonal and maintain, right? Seasonal.
We don't have roads that we only take care of in spring, summer and early fall.
Do we currently, how many privately maintained roads and or recreational trails or snowmobile trails or private roads or seasonal roads that are not maintained by the municipality show up in our official plan documents?
Oh, wow, really, sure.
Recreational trails,
Yeah, they're in their plan.
snowmobile trails?
There's a whole thing on transportation. And roads in the official plan. I might not have it with me, but there is a map with transportation on it. Features, and use. Yeah, I might not have it with me.
For example, the Lucy Road, then we're. That's when it's not maintained.
That is a road though,
Yeah.
that is a
Well, there used to be.
inventory, yeah.
You can see the building foundation still.
Where's
Go
that?
back there, there's still
Lots on?
something, somebody back
No,
there. still-
off of, Predator,
Oh, yeah.
Past the dump,
Corridor,
go
yeah,
straight.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, there's still
That's a
somebody,
snowmobile trail.
there's still a camp back there or something. Back there on the right.
Yeah, there's some camps.
Number 7, implementation and interpretation. Following process provide direction for the decisions of council, the use of the bylaws and development agreements which shall implement. And interpret policy outlined in this plan. The improvements. Objectives, community improvement plan. Oh, I have another star here, let's see here. Let's see if I can figure out why this one's stuck.
But when are we on?
Yeah, I. 7.21 Improve municipal services, oh, it's an extra W.
No.
Yeah.
That was all
nice
it was,
road,
yeah.
Can I just make a comment on 3?
Yeah.
So that's the 10 years and then 5-year intervals, but then there's a second part to that. Should economic or social change occur which necessitate an earlier review, or should the monitoring of the plan identify areas that need further consideration, council may direct such a review to be undertaken. I think we mentioned something like that with regards to, I forget, it was trailers or something else, right? Or no, we were talking about, this is probably week 1, we were talking about subdivision or something like that, and if it doesn't, if there's an investor, can we revisit it? And I think that's a good point there, like that it's 10 years for the next review, but council can basically force a review to a certain point of it if we need to change something for the better.
But look how long this process took, so hopefully they're patient.
Economic and social.
I wouldn't say a full review of the entire plan. I'm just saying, like, if, for example, if you have a situation where there's something gonna, investor says I could do this and this in the township, and you want to revise the boundaries of the hamlet. Well, there you go. You can say, fine, we're gonna redo the boundaries of the hamlet only at the 2-year mark, right? And then that way you
We
allow,
just have to open this,
yeah,
although does it have to be approved by the province before any of that can happen?
Yeah.
So you're years in the making anyways, how?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
even that your own hamlet boundaries.
yeah, so eventually this document gets,
Resent to the.
to the ministry and they sit on it for however long they need to, and then.
Public,
They're just way behind.
yeah, everything would have to open up.
I said that as nice as I could, because we're in public.
Yeah.
I think the basic thing to understand is municipalities are creatures of the province. If the province has to have an act. And it has to give us express permission to do something, otherwise we can't do it. Because we are creatures of the province. just like the province are creatures of the federal government. It's just our judicial system or our whole government system. So the province has to allow us to do something for us to do it. Pre-2001, when the Municipal Act, that was a much more restrictive time. When, because that's when municipalities got natural persons powers, so. Just keep history.
Yeah.
This has been a long process, but essentially the province has to give us permission to do so.
Zone 7.3 zoning bylaw. Non-conforming uses, non-complying uses. Temporary uses. Holding provisions. Development, 7.4, and just looking around before I go to 7.4. Development permit bylaw.
We need a permit to cut trees on your property? I want to thin out some trees.
Oh, where are you there?
Yeah, I want to thin out some trees. Man.
No, where are you on the?
Development road,
No, on the
Paper.
document.
7.4,
7.4.
development permit bylaws. Tree cutting bylaws.
What section is it? Like what number?
We're gonna talk about
For the
community planning
introduction.
permits.
Oh, in the. Every municipality has to have the tree canopy protection bylaw.
And ours has actually, well, what did I say, like 30?
What are,
So I should check
was-
in before
was that-
cutting, thinning out the trees, I guess.
Was that early stated earlier in this document?
Yeah, there was something like
right,
that.
Yeah,
And then what we need to probably make sure is that our actual bylaw conforms with
Yeah.
our official plan. About percentage.
We didn't have a percentage. I think that was a conversation that we said it's
Yeah.
hard because like if you can't set a percentage on someone that has 50% of rock
Yeah,
trees, right?
absolutely.
So I think it was the wording was something like a feasible or appropriate amount or something like that, right? And then we
Yeah.
question what's an amount. Well, I think that's why we can't set a number to it.
You can take 8 trees, but not 9.
And to thin them out.
All right, uh,
75?
2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 5. Oh, sorry, sure, go 7, 5, site plan control. Transport is this end of the document, it's gonna go fairly quick, I think. Nothing on site plan control, 7.6, public meetings. 7.7, property maintenance and occupancy standards bylaw.
You know, when we're doing things and making suggestions, sometimes I think it's important that we have the capacity to enforce them. It's not just only placing them, it's also how we're going to enforce them as well. It's just,
I agree with you.
Sometimes we make,
And our sorry,
sometimes we just, you know, put things down, but then we don't have any means of the capacity of staffing or whatever to enforce it. So it's just something to consider when we're doing bylaws and all that.
yeah, our municipality, like many, I would, maybe even all, are complaints based, right? So. Our bylaw enforcement officers reacting to complaints is basically how we end up doing our enforcement.
And that's another thing I had brought forward to the consultants, that we also need a complaint process, because people just can't, without factual information, call in and say this and this and this. It has to be like when you complain to the Humane Society who looks after our the dogs or roaming dogs, like they have certain things they need to know, the date, they need to know, they investigate it. It's just not proven that they're guilty until it's investigated. So sometimes with our complaint process, we need to ensure that when somebody's doing a complaint, that we have the facts as well. And it's investigated. It's not just somebody saying, or, because anybody can say anything. So we need to ensure that, that it's documented and investigated.
Yeah, I think that's set by the tone of the municipality through either A, council, B, probably more appropriately, the CAO working with the bylaw enforcement officer about how the municipality wants to approach complaints, right? So it being open to that investigation and, people, it really ultimately comes down to approach and how somebody's gonna do their job as a bylaw enforcement officer, so. But I 100% agree with you that making sure that we are collecting all the facts before the municipality is making any sort of a ruling or an enforcement of any sort is going to be crucial.
It is crucial for fairness and, okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, let's see here. 7.7, 2, 3, and 4, I have stars besides. So the township will appoint a property standards officer whose responsibility will be to administer the enforcement of the property maintenance and occupancy standards bylaw. 3, the township will also appoint a property standards committee for the measures. So we did that most recently, right? And it's council itself. And the property standards officer is our bylaw enforcement officer.
Yeah, our bylaw officer.
And number 4, the measures will be used in achieving the property maintenance program will include an education and public relations program to illustrate the benefits of continued property maintenance together with the information. Do we do that? Okay, no.
No,
But we can maybe now start using our social media platforms.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And 2024, we should have a communication plan, something that we want to. So that we'll just have stock information that we're gonna put out
Yeah, absolutely.
What platforms are you guys on?
Facebook.
and Instagram.
Yeah. And we just got there, so don't judge us.
Yeah. We just got these.
TikTok will become just as TikTok's fading out. We're gonna jump it on to TikTok.
Hold on.
We're gonna have council on TikTok.
You're gonna need a younger council. Yeah. 7.8 potential contaminated sites. Number 9, environmental impact statements. Around 9.91 scope BIS, 7.91 scope BIS, 7.92 full site EIS. Okay. 7.10 pre-application consultation and prescribed information for planning applications. Anything written down there?
Pretty standard information, this whole section.
7-11 land division. 7.12 interpretation. And
Mine went for 711.2.4.
we're almost there.
No, I think we
Like,
were there.
I have a big one
7-11,
of these, and then I don't know why.
7-11, 2,
Awesome.
no further constraints, maybe.
Consent.
Granted- Oh, sorry, consent.
Oh, yeah, the 3
Further
separate
granted
and one
for lots with any previously severed or retained parcels. Okay,
So I don't think we wanna say that.
Yeah.
And essentially, if I've severed off my 100-acre parcel into 425 lots, it's essentially saying that I can't have any lots severed from that 25-acre lot.
But you have the 3+1. 3 severed and 1 retained. right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
off the original
technically,
township,
yeah.
township land, but because it's been severed once, this is saying that they can't be severed again.
Isn't that what it said earlier in the document too? Maybe I
Yeah, we kind
misunderstood.
of brought it up.
Yeah,
So say you had 100 acres and you sever off only 2, or 2 hectares,
Yeah.
because you're supposed to, another 2 hectares and another 2 hectares. You're basically left with like 28 hectares.
God forbid you have.
That
too
you're
many kids
unable to
that share
sever.
your property.
yeah,
But,
impossible.
You can't, you have to do,
A
Subdivision,
subdivision, yeah.
And I still have my note to ask JL Richards about this consent, like the 3+1, I know that. It's gonna be very difficult.
so, sorry, if it's a new owner, because it had been severed before, it can't be severed again.
And we get those questions a lot, and we say, sorry, no, you can't sever them, our policies currently don't allow you to sever. Again, so, and really the question comes down to, what is the original township lot? Is it like the 1800s township lot, or is it the when this policy comes into effect? Which I guess I'm just rehashing the same conversation, but it's still when it needs to.
If somebody could provide rationale for the current policy as it stands, but I don't understand why, if it's inside the hamlet. You can't subdivide as many times as you want to get it down to, I don't know, 1 acre or whatever we want the minimum lot size to be. Outside the hamlet to like a hectare or whatever it is, but like, gosh, you can take 100 acres and over 500 years wanna,
100 lots.
yeah, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah, I also don't agree with that.
Yeah, I know we're going back to rehash the same things, but
as long as it's on the list of things to bring up the jail records that like.
Well, it's
provide
not
us rationale.
the development again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's where we're.
Yeah.
And I get that it's not necessary, it's the PPS that's saying how you can, because you need to protect land as well. And I was reading other local official plans. And some do have 2 acre lots as opposed to 2.5 acre lots. So maybe that is something that we want to change for our minimum lot in the rural area to a 2 acre lot. It doesn't really help us much because you still can't sever if you've already been severed.
Yeah. I think for this one, if we can get it out of the, can sever more.
Yeah.
2.5 is fine to me. I mean, it's immaterial in my opinion, but I mean,
Yeah.
Well.
And I think how we're getting out of one of the ways that we're getting that we can do more consents is that new community or estate lot subdivision, where you can do 5 a year. So if you have a subdivision agreement, going through the subdivision process, it's a much simpler process than a regular subdivision. So new policies are in there to allow us to have more consent.
maybe we can take the
That's
restriction
the
right out
number.
of all this document.
Yeah, just a normal.
Maybe Gerald Richards
Okay.
will have a really good explanation as to why it's like this.
Absolutely, okay.
When you speak about estates, I know I did one and the property was in Corbeil. And there was a house and there was 100 acres, so. And when they were taking the value of the assets of the estate. That was one of the things that they spoke about. Could that property be severed, then the value is higher, and that's the federal government, that's CRA, which is interesting. It's possible that they had severances and they could not, if that was the case, then they couldn't take any more, make any more severances, right? But based on the idea, could this property be severed? Then that makes the value of the assets much higher.
Yeah.
And that's through the federal government, nothing to do with municipal government.
Well, if somebody's gonna spend $150,000 on 100 acres of property. And able to subdivide that and sell each for 40, 50 grand. Well, holy cow, you can make a boatload of money off of 100 acres of property if you're gonna subdivide it.
You could, but if you didn't get severed,
Right,
yeah, you would think with 100 acres, you could get a severance, right?
right.
In this instance, if there was already, the lots were taken off it, That's the value of the property, what's there is there. There's no additional value. I just found it interesting, I thought, holy smokes. They're coming at you all angles to get a value, to get the value of the assets of the estate. Can that property be severed? No. In this instance, we'd say in Bonneville, no. Because there was already severance off.
Okay, I think
Do
we're
we
into the schedule A. Sorry,
Do
Jenna.
do we have limits on size of lots in a subdivision agreement?
Mhm.
And what are they? Because I've just noticed some lots, like only 99 or 100 feet frontage.
0.6, yeah.
Hydrological study.
Yeah, if you do a hydro G study, it can go down to 0.6 of a hectare.
And if not, it's a hectare.
So we don't have like a frontage. It's 0.6.
No, there's frontage as
Yeah,
well.
the frontage, yeah, that gets through the zoning bylaw.
So our frontage in the zoning bylaw must be, like I've seen some 99 feet with newer houses, some with 100. So
Generally, it's 60 meters. In a rural area, it's a 60-meter frontage.
even on a subdivision agreement in a rural area?
Yep.
Okay, but I mean,
You can get it reduced as they do the official, or sorry, as they do the subdivision agreement. Because that gets done in a different process, like, then it still gets, so they can create smaller frontages. It's just done, they usually have a planning justification report that goes with it to say why it's less than. But they have to go through that other section where it said that, 7.10, where it's all about the pre-application and the consultation there, then that all gets taken care of then.
okay.
And they also have to be accepted by the ministry.
So there could be a need for somebody that doesn't want to do a lot of yard maintenance. Want a lot in the country that small.
Yes.
Buy a lot with a lot of rock. Not very much right, okay, so I think we are done this process for now. So next steps, just for everybody's enjoyment, is come early in the new year, Gerald Richards will be meeting with us. We don't have a date for that yet.
No.
Don't keep us posted. Is
Do
there?
you want to aim for the third Monday in January?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Is there anything on the books that we need to meet for?
There are no applications right now.
Always ask me to switch to a different app.
What is the first, are you saying the first week?
The third won't work, there's one more.
Yeah. I'll keep you
So
posted.
maybe the 29th.
When are we back from that big trip?
I think we're back to 22nd. Council is January 30th, so we could do this meeting January 29th.
Sure.
Okay. I'll aim for
I'm-
January.
I'm sorry, the date again, for some
The
reason. my
29th, Gina, of January.
Okay, my tablet was acting up.
That's
Okay.
okay.
No. January 9. Put on my schedule. Actually, I'll do it after I close the meeting. Maybe you don't have to watch that. Okay, so I'll take a mover and a seconder to adjourn the meeting. Moved by member Paquette, seconded by member Roblinski, that the planning advisory committee meeting be adjourned at 7:25
Oh.
p.m. And to meet again at the call of the chair, which we are aiming for January 29th. All in favor? Meeting adjourned.
Merry Christmas, Gina.
Merry Christmas to all of you.
Yeah.
I'm looking
Merry
forward
Christmas.
to getting home.
We are
Yeah,
too.
looking forward to seeing you.
Yes,
Yes. Thank you. All the best to all of you.
you
You
too.
too.
Bye.